One of the biggest pushbacks of anyone that's looking to adopt AI is always about hallucinations. And let's talk a little bit about hallucination. What is it? When does it occur? How often does it occur? And be able to kind of demystify the whole experience that people have. So when ChatGPT was first released, the 3.0 that came out in November of 2022, it was probably a bit rushed. And that's where a lot of people saw hallucinations, where it would make up facts and be able to tell its own story. And so you've got a lot of really creative outputs because these models were always presented to give you an answer. No matter if it
Right.
knew the answer or not, it was always expected to give you an answer. So it would people would ask it questions like, "How long does it take to walk across the English Channel?" And it would say an hour and a half, even though most people can't walk across water.
That's so funny. I love that. Yeah, I think there's definitely still somewhat of a hesitation with AI adoption. Although, Jace, I think White Glove's on the forefront to get people to feel better about that. We've been seeing that, and I think that across the world, it's getting more traction, right? And I can't wait to, if we get to it, we can talk about Nvidia. We were wondering yesterday, hey, what's going on with the news channel? Like, there's not a lot of bigger headlines, and then we saw this thing pop out of the stage yesterday, which we can potentially get to, but it's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about hallucinations and less about incorrect output, right? But more about, I think about, for instance, Altman over at OpenAI, could it be eventually, and we saw this with Google, but could it be eventually where you get a pay to play type of thing where actually, while we think the output is very precise, fast, and accurate, there's some sort of a financial gain on the back end from, let's just say, I don't know, I'll use Amazon. Amazon and Altman, they connect, hey, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars if your output tends to be our links, our output, our data, what we want it to be. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think that there's a possibility of that happening, and maybe it's already happening?
I hope not. I think that goes down to a rabbit hole where you're going to get curated data
Right,
and then it can be
exactly.
pushed to exactly what you want. And we saw this with Google back in the day where, the more you pay, the more your link and your story will be pushed higher, higher up. So I hope
Right.
that we don't get that and we keep the ability for it to be free and be open. But, as senior leaders, you need to take accountability as you're creating these. I don't believe that hallucinations as big as a problem as it was in early 2023.
Right,
The
right.
models have matured, they've gotten smarter, they've gotten more eloquent on how they present information to you, but also it's about how you ask the questions.
Yes, I was
And
going to
you
ask
as a
you.
leader need to know how to ask the right questions to get the response out of it. If you have an employee that is not great at spreadsheets, but you keep giving him spreadsheets and expecting a different result that he's not going to make a mistake, you're putting them in the wrong seat. So I love the Jim Collins. You've got to put the right people in the bus, and you've got to put them
Oh,
in the
yeah.
right seat.
That's good to
Using
great right
AI
there.
is the same way.
Such a great author, by the way. Good to Great, Built to Last. I think he came out with some other ones too, and I need to grab them. Maybe someone can shoot it to us in the
Yep. Yeah.
comments.
Work 2.0 is another one I just
Yeah.
read by him.
You made a good comment. We were chatting about this, and you made a good comment. It was about, wait a second. So you're going to be afraid of AI because of every now and then. And by the way, you're right. It's been so much more minimal compared to when this was released. And let's talk Chat GPT, right? When it was released earlier mainstream, right? But you said something that really resonated with me. So you're going to be afraid to use AI because of these hallucinations, yet you still have your employee who at times makes mistakes and you're still okay with it, right? You said something in that lines.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
remind
Yeah.
us all
The
how you said it? It was
bar,
really
the
good.
bar seems to be off that,
Right.
you know, we accept a mistake an employee has. So if you give an employee a task to create a 40-page report based on whatever your industry is, it's going to take them, let's say, 30 hours for them to do all of the research, get all of the comparisons, and be able to present you that report. Say there's two mistakes in there. Do you never use that analyst ever again? No, you coach them up, you ask them the right questions, and you be able to get them so that you see improvement. It's the same thing when you're speaking with an AI. They're not going to be perfect every single time, But if you know what they're good at and you can focus them to be very good at the things that you need done, and then you spend that extra time that you're saving, because a report now, 40-page report, you can probably get done in about 20 minutes with deep research.
Yeah.
Now you've got all of that extra time for your analyst to really go deep into resourcing it and being able to identify all of the different points being made, the numbers, making sure that they're accurate. That's where I've seen the most hallucinations in my use, is numbers and URLs. That's where
Right.
it seems to make the most mistakes right now.
It's so funny you say the URLs or the links. I was shopping around, right? And I wanted it to give me a link directly on Amazon for a certain product. And it took me to like dog products. I'm like, wait a second, that's not what I asked for. So, you just got to iterate. You brought up a good question. It's how you ask. And I know the models are different, which is my second point, which I'll get to in a sec. But you brought up PICO before. I'll tell you, when I first met you, not only was I impressed, but when you brought up the PICO framework, I'm like, oh my goodness, that is perfect. I've been waiting for something like that. Do you mind going through that? Because you're right. It's pretty much what you're telling it is, right? It's like an employee. You got to know what its strengths are. Well, you got to let your AI bot or what have you, even agent, you got to let them know what it is so that it's great at that. Can you walk through PICO for the audience?
Yeah. So PICO is a framework that I created with a couple other coworkers at the time, to really start helping people be able to get past the mind block of having that blank screen to speak to. So PICO stands for persona, instructions, context, and output.
Love it.
So persona, let's start with the P. You can have these models take on any persona because it has learned everything from the internet and knows about every single job. You can say specifically, you are an employee at this company with this role, because it's seen all of the job descriptions and knows what to expect out of that role. So let's say you're an investment specialist. It knows all of the things expected of an investment specialist, the jobs that you do on a daily basis, the outputs that you're expected to provide. The next is the instructions. And this is the key thing. And this is probably where everyone starts with. I need a task done. Give me an
Right.
answer.
Yep.
Provide that level of instructions. But the context is what's necessary.
People
These
forget that
models
one.
don't have the understanding that we have. You've got to think of them as a brand new intern that just joined. They have no understanding of your organization, of what you do. They understand conceptually because of the job description, but the day-to-day actions, they need that context. So that's where providing it more information, more documentation, oversharing to be able to get it to be
Right.
able to get the right level of output you're expecting. And then the last one is output. These are great. It doesn't just give you one type of output. If you get it in a paragraph form and you want bullets, you can just say, please provide it in bullets,
Right.
provide it in code, provide it in a table format, and it's able to give that to you so you can put it into the format that you want. The part that's even really cool, where you next level it, is you give it an example of a report that you've already done or something that you are expected to come, and it will mimic and mirror that type of report so that you have the report the exact way that you traditionally submit that.
So good. And hopefully people were taking that down mentally or jotting it down or typing, hopefully typing or transcribing. I love it, right? One of the things too that you taught me, especially on the O, right? Output and optimize. We chatted about the iteration portion. And what you can do is you can even tell it, hey, before you give me your output, provide 20 follow-up questions that I could answer to make this more precise. Highly recommend that. I've gotten so much better output from doing that, because I didn't realize, like, sometimes you just assume it's going to figure out all the different
Right.
layers and variables that you're needing to include or assuming. And so that's
Yeah.
been really
Being able to ask it to help find your blind spots, because you're not articulating it in a way that it may understand. So if
right.
being able to say, if you have any questions, please ask me before you provide the output.